Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer set to depart once next-gen consoles release. Call of Duty leaker The Ghost of Hope took to Twitter claiming Phil Spencer will retire as CEO of Microsoft Gaming and hands the reins over to Microsoft executive Sarah Bond once the next form of Xbox console is released. Quote, Phil Spencer will be retiring from his role as CEO of Microsoft Gaming after the launch of the next-generation Xbox, the Post reads. Phil Spencer is working closely with Sarah Bond and her team to ensure a smooth transition for her take over as CEO of Microsoft Gaming once he retires. Unclear as of yet who would take over as president of Xbox when Sarah Bond becomes the CEO of Microsoft Gaming. Microsoft would go on to deny the claim, with head of Xbox Communications Kari Perez speaking to The Verge the day the previously mentioned tweet was posted, saying, quote, Phil is not retiring anytime soon. Although a retirement in the near future was refuted, it's unclear how far out the next generation console will launch, since Microsoft only recently revealed long-term plans in a partnership with AMD to have a next-gen console that's not locked to a single online store. Spencer joined Microsoft in 1988 as an intern, eventually working up to the position of general manager of Microsoft Game Studios EMEA in 2001. Spencer served in the position until 2008, where he became a general manager of Microsoft Studios and corporate vice president a year later. Spencer would work in a number of other roles until being elevated to CEO in 2022.
It's important to note The Ghost of Hope. Oh, I said Call of Duty leaker, but a successful one. So it's not like it's just some random guy who'll occasionally say things and they're wrong a lot. Now, the really curious thing is the response, because when I first saw they refuted it, I was like, oh, and this is probably not true. But then they said specifically, Phil is not retiring anytime soon. Kind of hinted at it at the article. Soon is like, I would think a year, 2 years from now. The next console, I feel like, is going to be a bit longer than 1 or 2 years. Unclear as of yet, as of now. But it almost seems like they're denying the claim as of right now, but for financial reasons, they don't want to come out and just say, yeah, he'll leave then. Because I'm assuming that has to have some kind of echo on, like, you know, stockholders, financial somewhere, if your big guy is leaving the studio.
If this was just rumors and it wasn't serious, they wouldn't acknowledge it.
Exactly. That's,
you know,
that's
how many, I feel like I've seen these rumors circulated the last, like, 5 years, at least probably twice a year. I see these rumors get circulated. This one had a little more juice behind it, and I think for good reason. Phil Spencer's probably looking for his out. If I'm Phil Spencer, I'm fucking sick of this shit. I'm doing the best I can. I'm out here selling Xbox as a platform. I'm selling Game Pass. I'm selling all these games. I'm doing my best to big up these studios. I'm doing my best to juggle what Xbox fans want and what Microsoft wants, and it's going the way it's going, and I'm the one who gets the heat for it every time something bad happens, like all these massive layoffs. If I'm Phil Spencer, fuck this shit, dude. It's not worth it. There's a reason PlayStation became less personable over the last 15 years. It's because when shit hits the fan, the faces of these things get a lot of backlash and a lot of heat on them. You can argue whether it's rightfully so or not, all you want. So, very often, the face of a platform does not make all of the decisions. Now, Phil Spencer is the face of the platform and CEO of Microsoft Gaming Division, so you do be making choices, bro. But I get it. And I think, personally, it's a good time to leave. We've got the next Xbox in development. It's funny that PlayStation said that they've got, a PlayStation 6 in mind right now. Of course they do. Xbox does as well. They know what they're doing for the next generation. They know what metrics that they're going to be shooting for and the technology that they're doing. All of that is in R&D right now. But expect a next generation of consoles. Connor, you're right. Probably in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
That's just how this works, And I think that's usually a good time to head out. We had PlayStation leadership leave at the launch of the PlayStation 5, and then we got the Jim Ryan era, and that was an era. Or right before the PlayStation 5, maybe. We had Jim Ryan take the reins and take over, and that was an era. Fucking, we're out of that now, but we're still feeling the effects of it. So we'll see how all of this nets out in the next couple of years. Yeah, Phil Spencer's gonna leave, and
Yeah,
Sarah Bond seems to make the most sense as to replace him. I like Sarah Bond in that role. I just wish I had faith in Xbox as a platform.
yeah, I've been critical of Phil Spencer in the past, and I've only become bolstered in that belief with the story we talked about at the beginning, with Microsoft laying off 9,000 people, lackluster email by him that just makes me think, you don't give a shit. I also don't know if there's some kind of contractual obligation he has to stay.
Well, he may not have. He may not have been able to write. It may not have been his words. You know what I mean? But it came.
Exactly.
It came from him. But it may have been a message from Microsoft on high of send this email out. That's me. That's me. That's me being an executive apologist, like I tend to sometimes be. But these things.
You're being fair. You're being fair. In the case of Phil Spencer, I think if you put your name on something, regardless of where it came from, you're responsible for it. But even aside from that,
you're right. But you don't always have a choice on what you put your name on.
And that kind of leads to what I think about with Phil Spencer. Is he contractually obligated to stay with Microsoft up to a certain point? I feel like no, because when have I ever heard of an executive being required to sign a contract saying you're going to be from here to here? I also feel like that's not in the best interest of the company itself. If they somehow don't work out, you don't want to be, forced for, your next couple of years of game development, which of course, seeing as how it takes a lot of time for that kind of stuff to ramp up, you would want somebody in there that's going to be in control of the situation. Now, so with that line of thought, my, criticisms of Phil Spencer maybe aren't going to ramp up because no, I shouldn't say that. Point is, I see him as more pathetic now because if all of this is going on, and you potentially could leave whenever you want, and I know you're a millionaire, what reason besides your own ass do you have for not saying anything? Like at all, especially with how often you branded yourself.
Because you don't want to damage the brand, and Xbox or Microsoft can fire you. Like
they can, but that's what I'm talking of. In that's where it comes to class becomes an issue with me because at a certain point when you have so much money like these people do, any kind of issue that you
they can sue you too for damages, and that's gonna hurt your wallet.
That's my point. Where it's if he's not required to stay with the company, you could leave it and then say what you want. You could quit, and that be your quitting message.
Well, you don't want to burn bridges like that.
I get what you're saying, but that's my point of why I don't respect Phil Spencer because he's a person who, again, he brands himself as I care about the gaming community and the culture, and then
there's integrity.
The culture.
There's integrity there's integrity in, hey, I'm the head of a ship and I'm driving the ship to a destination. I want to make sure that it's in good hands. Or as good of hands as I can get. I want to put this ship in the best position possible to get where it needs to go before I leave.
But even with that, he's overseen 2 massive layoffs. It's doesn't seem like you're doing that very well if that's your goal.
Well, again, these came from Microsoft on high. It's not like
they are.
I'm sure he had to have some kind of input into the decision of who gets laid off and how these layoffs are conducted. But I don't think it's pathetic to be like, hey, I've got to deal with the bad part of business. Mm-hmm. Business sucks.
It's my own idealistic view when I see somebody who, does these things and rationalizes it the way you're saying he would, which all makes sense from that world. My response is me and most people don't give a shit and shouldn't care. Especially because
I think, Connor, I love you for your ideals, but I think very often that they're quite unrealistic.
Sometimes, maybe not this one where you're doing nothing and you're just taking the brunt of the,
We don't know that he's doing nothing.
Sure, but insignificant, whatever he's doing.
If you want to go that way and feel that way, sure. But yeah,
I'll be harsh.
And that's fine. They're not like I don't believe Phil Spencer is the Mr. Burns of Microsoft going, yes, how can we make more money? No. I don't believe he's that guy. But, there is a Mr. Burns at Microsoft. So you got to deal with that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's tricky and it's tough. And I still remember all the good that Phil Spencer did in the earlier years of his career leading up to when he started taking leadership roles and how he interacted with the community and how he listen, we can criticize Phil Spencer's run as CEO of Microsoft or of Microsoft Gaming all we want. There's plenty to criticize. There really is. I'm not gonna sit here and act like Phil Spencer never brought anything good or positive to the platform of Xbox.
No. Of course he didn't. I mean, it's more just like where Xbox is now, where Microsoft is now.
Yeah,
and
shit sucks.
Yeah, and those praiseworthy aspects that he's helped with in the past just aren't really applicable anymore. Like in this current period,
I just don't know where. I don't know where Phil could be doing better.
Mm-hmm. Not being there.
Maybe. I mean, maybe. You know. And so yeah, I don't know. This is exhausting, and yeah, and like the highlights of Phil's tenure at Xbox are very high for me, and I, as a personality, I have liked Phil Spencer for a long time, but I can't deny that he has started feeling more and more corporate in the last couple of years. I think that is in response to the heavy backlash that he's been getting when the business side and all these layoffs come in. I think there's been a clear difference between what was the event that happened that caused him to it didn't cause him to go on the Kind of Funny show. He was planned to, and then it was the
Redfall.
It was Redfall. It was Redfall, and then it was also the acquisition went bad. Was going bad at the time. So, I think there's been a very clear pre and post Phil since that moment. And I think it's a smart choice, and I think Xbox needs to stop. I mean, we said this when they shut down Tango GameWorks. Xbox needs to stop being so face friendly, because it causes the faces of Xbox to say things that I'm sure they believe in the moment when they're saying them, or they're at least selling the promise. But then when the promise doesn't get realized and studios like Tango GameWorks get shut down, it feels like they lied to us.
Well, they get that job for a reason, because they are willing to bend those kinds of things in the name of a company.
What?
Like, you hire people that you know aren't going to be, back talking you. I mean, for example, somebody gets as high as he has since working there as long as he has. He's sucked a few cocks, metaphysically, to the point where it's like, they may have like a comfortable understanding, especially with how he's acting now, that you're not going to rock the boat in a way we don't want you to.
You don't want boats rocked. Like,
exactly. So that's
I know, Connor, idealistically you want boats rocked, but I promise you don't. All this conversation about how Xbox is failing, XYZ, and all of this conversation that we're having right now. Imagine how much worse it would be if a Phil Spencer said, "Yeah, shit sucks. Like, it's terrible out here. Like, Microsoft is making me do all these things I don't want to do. X, Y, da, 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 da." If Phil Spencer did all the things that you want him to do, we would look at Xbox even worse than we look at it right now.
That's why you should have integrity and quit and then say these things. That's me being
Connor. I'm saying, you don't really want that. You may think you want that because idealistically it sounds nice and it feels more respectful, but I promise you that's not something you really do want.
The problem is that even with them not doing that, we just covered what the results are: massive layoffs, massive bonuses.
So why make
money?
So why make it worse?
I don't see how that would really change much. Again, we have to see it actually take place for it to like see really what that would entail. But it seems like regardless of whether they're succeeding,
I don't understand
or doing horrible
things,
because
if Phil Spencer were to suddenly turn coat and go, "Oh, it's terrible," and talk all this shit, we would look at Xbox even worse than we look at it now. Public perception matters. Public perception does affect your bottom line.
It does, yeah.
And so things would get worse if he did that.
Of course, they would. For them. But I don't care about Microsoft when they're not doing anything for anybody except themselves.
Okay, Connor. But when things get worse for Microsoft, it gets worse for these developers that we care about. So,
but I think
you can stand on this hill all you want of integrity and ideals and all these things that you perceive to be true, but it's going to make things worse for the people that we care about.
I still push back on that, saying as how no indication we have is that towing the line helps either.
I
get what you're saying. It's hard to say that as like confidently as you're saying it without there actually even being close to an example.
It would be worse. I don't understand how that's not better. Because preventing things from being. You're in a bad situation. The situation is bad. It's a really bad situation. I wish we weren't here. Everything sucks. It could be so much worse. And I'm not saying I'm not looking for a silver lining. I'm just stating it could be worse. I'm not saying that this is an acceptable line. This is not acceptable. Let me be very clear. What Microsoft has done in the last week is not acceptable. Changes should happen. This is why I said earlier in this podcast, these developers need to unionize. They need to. They need protections because shit is bad. But if shit was worse, why would you want shit to be worse, Connor Elliott? Because it makes you feel better about Phil Spencer?
Well, I think of
I would rather feel worse about Phil Spencer and shit not be worse.
Partly, the world's kind of already on fire, so what's a little bit more chaos?
That's
aside from that,
no, I'm not. I'm not co-signing that at all. Absolutely not.
Aside from that, though, I think of a quote. I'm not going to attribute the quote because that would upset some people. The person who said it, I do not agree with. It is not Hitler. Which is, the quote goes something, I'm definitely paraphrasing. I feel like I am. There is great turmoil under heaven. The conditions are excellent. Which is to say that when things get bad, it creates the opportunity for something good to come out of it. And when we're in this period of time when, regardless of whether they, again, toe the line or don't, shit news is going to come out from every game studio, including Microsoft. And any boat that might be rocked isn't going to make, it's not going to bring the downfall of Microsoft or Xbox gaming studios. I think you're over-exaggerating the impact that would have rather than just being like, okay, I can't shit on Phil Spencer anymore, which is how I see it. If he were to come out and say something, I'd be like, hey, well, at least he did something.
But what did he do? He just all that would have done is make him look better in your eyes.
Yeah,
by actively making the company that employs hundreds of thousands of people look worse.
Yes.
Like,
it's all about
do you see how that doesn't work? What you're saying, Connor, works on a 1-to-1 level, of you to me level. Yeah. I recently was working for a corporation. I got a lot of problems with those corporations. I have talked shit to you about that corporation, but if I'm in a leadership position at that corporation, I'm a face of that corporation, and I go and I talk shit to the general mass public, that's gonna make the situation of the people who still work there way worse. Good how?
Could.
Oh, could. Oh, okay. Could. I mean, yes, could. We're working with nothing but hypotheticals here, Connor. I think your hypothetical is way more likely for bad shit to happen than good shit. And the only benefit you're getting out of this is you like Phil Spencer a little bit more.
Well, also I want transparency because clearly they're trying to replace jobs outside of just game development, Microsoft as a whole, with AI.
It's not a Phil Spencer problem. I mean, it is a Phil Spencer problem, but it's not
part of it.
It's not a problem enacted by Phil Spencer.
Yeah, exactly.
So
if he's not
what good would Phil Spencer talking shit do?
Again, potentially transparency. If he also, obviously this is into the realm of
Okay, so let's give Phil the benefit of the doubt and say Phil's influence on Xbox has been more positive than negative. Assuming that there's a lot of backroom politics that we don't know about, right? Let's cut him that and say his influence has been more positive than negative, right? Mm-hmm. If a Phil Spencer-like individual whose overall influence has been positive creates a negative outcome for mega evil corporation Microsoft, they will never hire a Phil Spencer ever again. And then you're not getting the positive influences that the Phil Spencers of the world can create for these platforms and for these employees. It just takes a higher level of thinking here, Connor, than to just be like, how bad it is, just say how bad it is.
I get what you're saying, but again, in my cases, this, applies to me as well. All of this is hypothetical. Even you assuming that Phil Spencer did anything to really steer it in a way that helps employees. Yes,
but you have to, to form an argument, you have to create grounds for an argument.
Yeah, which is why I would like to see at least an example somewhere, because it seems like the games industry is full of people like Phil Spencer's of varying degrees, where they'll do anything that the company tells them to do, and the gaming industry just continues to get worse and worse and worse, and their existence, whatever positive effect they might have on it,
you're only assuming Phil Spencer's doing nothing. All of this is assumptions. And
he could be doing nothing. He could be doing something that doesn't matter. He could be doing something that's helping them. And he agrees with them. And everything he said up until this point is because he knows how to do PR, to talk to you and make you think, oh, this guy knows what he's a gamer. He cares about the community. We may not do care about that at all.
Potentially.
But now I'm not saying he does. I'm just saying one. If anything, I would say one thing weighs against the other, outweighs the other.
Sure.
It's just
I mean,
it's just a
yeah, but like, I just think the idea of wanting someone to leave and then talk shit is immature. like you never want to burn these bridges, and you never want to like potentially make it worse for other people.
I'll burn something. I'll burn those bridges, and then some. Not violence against a person.
I mean, I also think you're speaking from a perspective of someone who does not have as much responsibility as a Phil Spencer,
nor as much millions of dollars.
Right.
And I could say,
but he's got I mean, sure, yes, he's got a lot of money, and yes, he has the ability to just cut ties and run and be fine, right? He does have that ability. But would that be better for the people under him? That's where responsibility comes in. It's not about you anymore. It's about the people you're responsible for. Now, you can counter that with, well, he's not doing a good job of it. And maybe he's not. But clearly, like, he's got bosses too. And they seem to be way worse.
Yeah.
You gotta remember, a lot of people lost their jobs and not all of them were in games. 9,000 people across Microsoft's entire board lost jobs. You know? I don't know what the number is on just the gaming division, but a lot of people lost jobs. And, you know, well, there's no easy. Phil. You're not complaining about the Phil Spencer. I don't even know how many. 2,000 people in Xbox. I don't know. I'm throwing out a random number. The 2,000 people under Xbox under Phil Spencer lost their jobs. That fucking sucks. You don't have a Phil Spencer to point your finger at and wave for the other 7,000.
No, because I mean, I think we kind of touched on this topic a couple weeks ago. I'm more just like, I understand in the same way the sky is blue that the figures like Satya Nadella and anybody on that kind of level in Microsoft as a whole are irredeemable people. I don't see them as, people that have any value to the life other than themselves. So Phil Spencer, I don't think on that same level. So I don't hate him as much. But because of that, whenever things like this happen and he's making stupid remarks like the email he sent out, I have nothing but bad things to say about you, even if you're objectively less worse than Satya Nadella. But, we'll see how Microsoft proceeds from here. Maybe they'll hire a bunch of people to offset these layoffs that happened. Which, by the way, we never talked about it. They just got rid of Perfect Dark for a tax write-off. You kind of brought that up.
Oh, probably, yeah, 100%. I mean, we didn't even talk about how like, no. Hey, we've this big beautiful bill just fucking passed, and it's gonna give a bunch of tax breaks for the wealth or for the rich, even more tax breaks for them. And Connor, those tax breaks don't include Phil Spencer's. Like he's not benefiting from that. The Satya Nadellas are. He's not.
I think it is in like a certain income bracket.
I don't think Phil Spencer's in that income bracket.
You don't think?
No. Because the people it benefits are way richer than you can even conceive.
They benefit the most, certainly.
I mean, maybe he does. I could be talking out of my ass. I don't know how much Phil Spencer makes.
Yeah, I didn't look that up.
That's a great thing that we should ask because you didn't look it up, Connor, but he makes millions of dollars.
I do. I know he makes millions. I don't know how many millions. I guess no is in the confident no. Yes.
The AI overview says has an estimated worth of $25 million. His annual salary is reported to be $10 million. This is income and net worth as a result of leadership and strategic. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it's not public, but
it would never be public. It would never be public.
Yeah. I guess
net worth is a tricky thing because net worth is not the money you have in the bank.
I remember seeing, I think it was a tweet from some celebrity at some point who was bringing up their net worth, and they're like, I don't fucking have this much. Even close. And they're like a big name person.
Robert Downey Jr. did an interview once where he was like, when you get the Googled thing, he laughs at it every time because it's either like way too low or way too high. And he's like, oh,
That's funny. Guess he would know.
So yeah, net worth, yeah, but reported to be $10 million a year. Okay, so he's got some millions. Yeah, that's a lot, but you gotta understand, there's people above him who make way more money, way
Oh, yeah.
more fucking money, like a stupid amount more. Like $10 million is not likely that you'll achieve that in your lifetime, but it's conceivable that you could, you know?
79 million a year, maybe less so.
Listen, it gets exponentially harder with every million above that. So you got to look at people who have billions of dollars and go, how is that ethical? It's not.
It is not. Clearly, as we see with Microsoft.